Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the South Carolina Gamecocks Dynasty here on EA Sports College Football 25, and today the Gamecocks have reached a much needed bye week in the 2028 season. So with it being the exact middle point of the season, I thought this would be a good time to kind of recap what's happened so far with the Gamecocks, take a look at some stats, take a look at the rest of the country to see how that's unfolding, as well as get an update on recruiting. So a lot to cover in this episode, then we will simulate week 7 to see what happens next. But if you're excited for this one, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. Now, I always say in that little part, if you're excited for more, and I know this has not been a season of a lot of excitement. Before the season, this was a season with a ton of excitement. We had a ton of anticipation, a ton of expectations. And so far, we've limped to 3-3. The Gamecocks have not played good so far this season, to say the least. We're 1-2 in the SEC. Our college football playoff chances have all but evaporated unless we go on an insane winning streak to close the season. And part of that's just because we have not played good. If you look at what's happened so far, the first game of the season, we came in at preseason number 12 and we lost to the Tar Heels 38-21 at home. And at the time was a very embarrassing loss. Now I will say, in hindsight, the Tar Heels are 6-0, so they're actually a really good football team. Not sure how they're still not ranked, but it makes the loss look a little bit better. So it's like, okay, we lost that one. We did lose it by 3 scores. Whatever. We come back and we play Wofford and we beat them 52-3, and then we beat Middle Tennessee State 42-27 in a game that got really close for a moment of time, but the Gamecocks did pull away. Now, going into the SEC play, we weren't on the best play, but we did beat the Texas A&M Aggies 17-14, a pretty solid win. But then ever since then, it's been downhill. We lost to Kentucky in what was, I don't even know what to say, a Hail Mary we gave up on the last play of the game to the Wildcats to lose that game. Tough loss. We got back up to 13th in the rankings. Now, hindsight, Kentucky is the 21st ranked team, so they're a good team. And we only fell to number 21. So our chances were still alive, and then we just lost 44-37 to Alabama. We could not stop their offense. The defense played absolutely atrocious, and that's where we stand now. We sit 3-3, 1-2 in the SEC, and well, our college football playoff chances, like I said, have almost all but evaporated. We'll at least see how the rest of the country's doing. We'll go through the conference standings. In the ACC, we see the Tar Heels at the top, despite, again, still not being ranked. Clemson's also having a good season, which puts a little bit more salt in the wounds. We were expected to maybe be better than them this year. They're 5-0, the 4th-ranked team in the country. Syracuse is also undefeated in the ACC. They're 5-1. Cal 3-2. They've won their first ACC game. And now Duke has joined the rankings. They're 5-0. And then you got Miami lingering as well, the defending national champions, who are still the 7th-ranked team. So it's a very tight race in the ACC. In the American, we got some new teams at the top. UAB has fallen from this pedestal. We see Navy at the top. They're 2-0, the only 2-0 team in the AAC. East Carolina won their first conference game. They're 2-3, though. Memphis, my preseason favorites to win the conference. They are 1-0, and the only problem is they're 1-4. That's the only win of the season. But hey, if you win the conference games, who really cares? And then North Texas has joined the ranks. They're 4-1, and they're the 18th ranked team in the nation. In the Big 12, we got a couple of 3-0 teams. The UCF is up there, as well as Utah, who's been putting up a lot of points so far this season. They come up to the number 19th ranked team. Arizona, the Big 12 champs from last year, are 2-0 in the conference. They lost their 3 non-conference games, though. And then Cincinnati is also undefeated. They sit at 4-1 and 2-0. In the Big 10, you got 4 undefeated teams left. Indiana sits atop of the pack despite being 3-2. Michigan is the 3rd-ranked team in the country. They're trying to get back to the College Football National Championship as they're 5-0. Penn State's 4-1, but they're ranked 5th. And then you got Purdue hanging around as well. And then you can't sleep on Rutgers just behind, who've been a pleasant surprise in this series, making the playoff 2 out of the 4 years that we've had so far. In the Conference USA, Western Kentucky sits atop. They're 13th ranked. They could potentially be the Group of 5 representative this year. I did not expect that. Kennesaw State, the youngest team in the FBS, they're 4-1, 1-0. They're still looking for their first bowl game in school history. Then you got Sam Houston, who's 3-2 and 1-0. In the Independents, UConn's 3-3. Notre Dame, number 6, at 5-1. In the MAC, you got a couple of undefeated teams. Bowling Green, You got Central Michigan. You got Toledo, who finally might be the team to beat in the MAC. I always picked them to be the best, and they always disappoint. The one year I think they might be the best team in the MAC, I didn't pick them, so that tells you about my predictions. Ball State's also 1-0 in conference, as well as Eastern Michigan. In the Mountain West, they have not played yet any conference games. Same thing with the Pac-12, despite Oregon State being undefeated. In the SEC, Ole Miss sits the only 3-0 team thus far. They're 14th ranked. They have the best quarterback in the conference in Kevin Awiosika, who we'll see later in the year, so yay us. Georgia's undefeated. They're also the number one team in the country, so you can't forget about them. Kentucky has now joined the ranks at 2-0. They got a couple of 1-0 teams. Alabama, who just won their first conference game against us. Arkansas is 5-0. They've joined the ranks. And the number 2 team, Auburn. So it looks like the SEC is stacked this season. And Mississippi State won their first conference game. Good for them, because they didn't win a conference game last year. In the Sun Belt, Arkansas State is the team to beat out here. Not what I anticipated, but they, like Western Kentucky, are fighting for a Group of 5 representative. And then you got Louisiana Monroe as well, undefeated, Southern Miss, and all three of those teams are in the West. The top team in the East is actually Coastal Carolina from the state of South Carolina, as you can see those rankings there. But that does it for the standings. Next, we'll look at the stats to see how we have done so far, and it's honestly not been that good. Dante Reno, 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Every game that we've seen, minus the FCS game, he's thrown 2 interceptions. I'd love to see that break at some point. Now, even though he has 10 interceptions, not all of them are really his fault, I will say. If you watch the last game against Alabama, for instance, one of them was a 3rd and long, just deep ball that got picked off, so it's almost like an arm punt. And the second one, come on now, it was a bubble screen outside the screen, and we made the right read. How am I supposed to know Amari Allgaier is not going to block the outside corner? So I don't always blame it on him, but he has definitely not played as good. Completion percentage is down this season. Yards per game is up, though. So I need to see Dante Reno step up. 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions is unacceptable. And the rushing game is finally starting to get going. Wade Mann, who led the country in rushing yards last year, has 7 touchdowns and 687 yards, so he's really doing well. A lot of those numbers did come in the Alabama game, especially in the first half, so that's inflated. Monty Soro has been a good change of pace back, we'll see. He's found the end zone once. And then Dante Reno actually doesn't have negative yards, surprisingly. In the receiving game, our top receiver is Vernon Ryder with 28 receptions, 398 yards, has yet to find the end zone, though. I will say we need to see a little bit more. Somebody step outs from this receiving core. That was part of my worry this year, and it's kind of coming to fruition. Ted Martinez found the end zone 5 times. He's really been the deep threat for this team. The Jacksonville State transfer has kind of flourished in this offense, even though he had a quiet game against Alabama. Amari Allgaier, who was the preseason number 1 receiver, only has 15 catches, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's kind of falling back in the depth chart. Wade Mann has 25 catches and 3 touchdowns as well, so he has 10 total touchdowns already this season. And then Jason Paquette has 4, so it's good to see him finally find the end zone as a senior. And then Carl Saban also has a touchdown, the Wake Forest transfer, who I'd like to see maybe get involved in the offense a little bit more. In the blocking, it's been okay. I do think the pass blocking has been fine. I do think the run blocking needs to do better, though. But we are actually mixing around the offense. You saw it maybe in the Alabama game, but I'll highlight it here in favor this before we get into our next game. But left tackle to start the season was Stephen Colombo. We're actually made a change there. We're going to see Ari Bighill now become the starting left tackle. A redshirt sophomore from Somerville, I think, is ready for the job. And then at right guard, it's been Tenard Smith, who I think has been the weak link of the offensive line. We're actually going to make the move to Davion Merriman, who we got from Tulane in the transfer portal this offseason. So he will get the start at right guard next game. So a couple of changes in the offensive line I do want to highlight. Hopefully that does make a difference. On defense, the tackle leader is Torrey Perkins, the true sophomore, former 5-star from Buffer, Georgia, who's come along a lot in his sophomore campaign. Bryce Reeves right behind him. However, I do think the linebacker core needs to play better, especially in the pass defense game. We've been giving up a lot of open spaces in the middle of the field, and it's kind of been unacceptable. We didn't see that last season. I need to see it less this season. Tackles for a loss leader is Unbena Onwuka with 14. He has been an absolute menace. And then Derek Vincent Douglas has been great in the run game. And then your sack leader is Onwuka with 8.5. He is he's stopped a lot of drives on his own, forced some, turnovers as well. he's been the star of the defense. Greg Bodden, the transfer from LSU, has 5 sacks, so that's been good to see. Bryce Reeves has 4. Vincent Douglas has 3. Nate Lamb with 2, getting some playing time on the outside to wrap up those. Then you have a sack and a half for the freshman Enrique Leal. Torrey Perkins has 1, and so does Quinnen Ford. Interceptions leader has been Danny Kaufman with 3. He has stepped up, I will say, in the deep game. He gave up a deep ball in the North Carolina game, but ever since then he's played pretty good. Sonny Gallen has a pick as well. Deshaun Heap, I can't look at him and not think of what happened in that Kentucky game. And then Owagmami Ogbongbemiga has an interception, who I think needs to get some more playing time at corner. In kicking, Otogwe's been 8 for 10 to start his campaign. His job as the kicker, he's been pretty solid, all things considered. And then Taylor Montez has been decent as a punter. We don't have any kick return touchdowns, but then Mazio Bennett does have 1 punt return touchdown to his name. As far as the rest of the country, we'll start in conference, actually. So we'll start with the SEC. Your passing yards leader is Ryan Puglisi of Georgia, the number 1 team in the country. You know, he's really improving. That NFL draft spot could be a top 5 pick if he keeps pushing Georgia like this. Then you got Leati Littlejohn, my favorite name. Little John is the last name of Oklahoma. And then you have Aiden Glover of Missouri. Jeremy St. Hilaire, who we'll see in the next game, of Vanderbilt. And then number 5 is Dante Reno. Touchdowns leader is St. Hilaire with 21, so the Vanderbilt pass game has been good this season. That doesn't spell good for us, who've not been good in the pass defense game. Then you got Puglisi, Glover, Frederick Prude up there as well. And then interceptions is not actually Reno, it's Jamarcus Nani of Florida, who's been the biggest disappointment in the SEC. I don't think Florida's won a game yet. 11 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Rushing yards, it is Wade Mann still in the SEC, followed by Javier Huber of Arkansas and George Dickey of Vanderbilt, who's actually hurt. Touchdowns leader is Mann with 7, so still leading all running back numbers. The receiving game, it is Rashawn Wade of Auburn who leads the pack, followed by Darren Tillery of Texas, Jeff Baher of Vanderbilt, and then Terrence Hendricks of Missouri, and Bubba Hampton of Alabama round out the top 5. Your receptions leader is Terrence Hendricks. Touchdowns leader with 8 is Rashawn Wade of Auburn. Then you got a couple of 7 in Jeff Baher of Vanderbilt, Brendan Ahmed of Mississippi State, and then Brandon Tuffaley of Missouri. Your defense is Torrey Perkins and Bryce Reeves lead the way in tackles. Sacks leader is Onwuka with 8.5, followed by James Nesta of Oklahoma with 7. INT's leader is Amon Lane Gannis of Auburn with 5. So he looks like a good corner in this upcoming draft class. And then you got Shaquem Hayes of Oklahoma with 4. Kickers, your most accurate kickers are Kellen Lyles of Kentucky, Cam Ravitz of Mississippi State, Matt Griggs of Oklahoma, and then Ben Pugh of Florida have not missed any field goals, even though he's only 3 for 3. Your worst extra points kicker is Scotty Koenig of Ole Miss, even though he's only missed 1. Nobody's missed more than 1 kick. Kick returns, anybody got any kick returns? Yes, Brandon Tuffaley of Missouri has 1, and then in punt returns, it is Michael Turner as well as Mazio Bennett with 1. As far as recruiting, that's where we'll spend the next little bit of time. We've done a recruiting highlight once in the very first episode of the season, but we looked at all the 5 stars, and we were pretty lucky with them. There's no more 5 stars on the board, but we got 6 5 stars. David Kiernan, Eric Levrone, Jaleel Griggs, Alexander Soward, Chad Pierspacher, and Frank Kennedy have all committed to the program. That's 6 5-star recruits, all on the defensive side. So hopefully we can get some help to this defensive class. And right now, those 6 recruits have us as the 4th best recruiting class in the country. And that is the most 5 stars of any program. The next closest is Oregon with 3. So far it's been good. But we have spent a lot of progress on the 5 stars, a lot of attention on these guys. So now it's time to move down a star to the 4 stars. Take a look at some of the ones we are targeting. And because we put so much time into these 5 stars, some of these 4 stars, we might be a little bit behind. So we still got some work to do. The top guy now on our board is cornerback Elliot Ostergaard from East Forsyth High School in Cumming, Georgia. Yes, that is a real place. We are currently in 5th. Tennessee, Notre Dame, Georgia, and Georgia Tech all above us. And the reason I have him at number 1 is because, 1, he's a gem at 6'1", And 2, he has great zone coverage at 81, so I think he could be a really good corner for us. We play a lot of zone, 72 man coverage as well. He can move around a little bit, and I think we need to help the secondary that's losing our top 4 corners this offseason to graduation. So we need some help in the secondary. That's why I got Elliot Ostergaard at the top. Next, we got Sua Lu, the right tackle who's currently at Hillel High School in Hillel, Florida, who's originally from Hawaii, who moved to Florida to play high school football. We're currently behind Miami, Georgia Tech, UCF, and Florida State. But this seems like a little bit more of an open battle, one that I think we can get into. He's also a gem. He's a great finesse blocker with 90 strength. But he's got 72 and 71 base trait blocking and pass and run respectively. So I think he's got enough there with the gem that he could be some good depth and eventually start on the offensive line. Speaking of offensive line, and next we got right guard Darren Zombo from Cedar Grove High School in Ellenwood, Georgia. And we're currently up to number 2 with him. It's going to be tough to overcome Georgia, though, who's built quite a sizable lead. He is more of a power blocker. He's got great power traits, good base run block in 76. The only reason why I have Lou above him is because of that star gem build, dev, essentially. But Zombo's a great lineman as well. Staying at right guard, you got Earl Abbott up next from West Charlotte High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. And despite us getting late to the party, we're currently the only team offering him a scholarship, so that's good to see. I think we can close this one up really soon. He's also a power blocker at right guard. Stronger than Zombo, but not as defined, even though he's got 80 lead and 77 run. Don't know his pass blocking trait, which is a little scary, but I think Earl Abbott could be a great addition to this offensive line that is very upperclassman heavy, and I think we should definitely lock him up in the coming weeks. Next up, defensive line, defensive tackle Timothy Fatu from Etowa High School in Atala, Alabama. He's also a gem, currently behind Duke, UAB, Auburn, and Middle Tennessee State, so a lot of smaller schools. However, it seems like Auburn has found Fatu, and they could honestly climb up the rankings. Duke is in front, but I think Auburn could really make a late push. 6'1", 324, a big, strong defensive tackle in the middle. And that's kind of what we're missing. We have a good defensive line, but we use a lot of speed to our advantage. But Fotu could really be that nose guy when we go with 3-down linemen with that 91 strength and 84 power move. So I'd like to see him get involved. I just think it's going to be a little bit harder to get him. Back to the offensive line and back to right guard. You got Johnny Hogue from Mars Hill Bible School, a private school in Florence, Alabama. We're number 3 for him behind Florida and Georgia Tech, and it might be a little bit too little too late, so we're making a late push to get him. He's got good power blocking traits, 96 strength, one of the strongest linemen in this class with 77 run block. Reason only why I got a number 6 on our board is because it might be a little too late, but I do like Johnny Hogue a lot. Maybe we can make a late push. Bart Talbot's up next, the right end from Appalachian High School in Boone, North Carolina, right in the backyard of the Mountaineers. Again, maybe a little bit too late to the party. Duke, NC State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech are all ahead of us, but he's a good gem, 82 power move, 81 speed, 87 strength, a guy who can push back that offensive line. All right, in, we also got Kwamami Akindele from Forest Lake Academy in Apopka, Florida. Currently behind Miami, North Carolina, UCF, and Mississippi State. Miami does have a little bit of a lead, but I think we can get into this battle. Again, another gem. He's more of a run stopper with 82 block shed, 81 strength, with pretty decent speed at 73, and he can hit hard. So I like to add him to our defensive line. Juan Coxie up next, a right outside linebacker from Clover High School in Clover, South Carolina. So the first and only South Carolina guy that we're currently targeting so far in this class. And because he's from South Carolina, that automatically puts us in a battle with Clemson, as most of these players usually do. He's also a gem. He's a power rusher, 81 power move, 82 tackle. He reminds me a lot of Nate Lamb, and I think he'll kind of play that same role. You know, he'll be that stand-up linebacker at the line of scrimmage who will probably just be a rusher, considering he only has 53 zone coverage. But with Lamb graduating, I think Kotze could fill that role nicely. Number 10, we got cornerback Milos Filipovic from Brookhaven High School in Brookhaven, Mississippi. And because he's from Mississippi, he seems like an Ole Miss Rebel. I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion, which is unfortunate. He's got 97 speed, 80 man coverage. I would have liked to have had that, but doesn't seem like it's going to be. Ahmad Jacobson, a right guard from Phoenix City Central in Phoenix City, Alabama, the same town that Ted Martino is from. Being from Alabama, UAB is in the lead, but Clemson is making a push. I think the Blazers are kind of struggling this year, and that might help them to lose Jacobson, and hopefully we can slide in. He's a good pass blocker, which is, I think, what we need at the right guard spots. Unfortunately, he's only a pass blocker, so that's why he's a little bit far down. He's got 60 runs, so he'll need some development in that regard. Devon Davis is a free safety from Lord Bitatork High School in Daleville, Virginia. I love the name. He's currently leading towards the other Gamecocks, Jacksonville State, despite the fact they have not offered him a scholarship. I don't know what they're waiting on, because I think they would be foolish to not give a scholarship to a 4-star safety. But nonetheless, that could be our game because we've made the biggest jump last week. Pitt is currently in front of us, but we should overtake him. As long as he doesn't commit to Jacksonville State, unless they're foolish enough to not give him a scholarship, I think Davis will be a good guy to get. Now, he's listed as a free safety, but he's got good coverage stats on both sides. I think he could be a really good strong safety for us, help cover those tight ends. Maybe be more of a Sonny Gallen type of role if we get him, but hopefully we can swoop in and get him. Also at free safety, you got Leonard Legend Ohaletti. I love the name Legend, from Greensboro, North Carolina, currently attending Grimsley High School. Duke also seems to like him a lot, so we recently just got passed by Clemson, so that's going to be tough to overcome. He's got 78 zone. He's definitely more of a free safety, middle of the field with 93 speed. And considering how we played against the deep ball this season, that might be a good trait to have. Last of the free safety trio is Darren Calloway from Deerfield Beach High School in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Miami quite has a sizable lead despite UCF being in front of us and also having a visit on the horizon. He's another good center field safety with 81 zone. Probably better than Legend, but again, Legend might be a little bit more attainable of the two. Back to the offensive side, we got George Hills from Screven County High School in Sylvia, Georgia. He is a pass protector. We did give him a scholarship this week, so despite the fact that we are 8th, we could shoot up into that battle with Auburn, Georgia, and Miami, and I fully expect to. A good pass blocker. Again, run block might be a little low for right tackle. Maybe we move him to left tackle, but he would be good depth on the offensive line. Then we got tight end Jacques Grassu from Whiteville High School in Whiteville, North Carolina. Currently out in front for him, so we'd like to see that. And especially with Biquette graduating this year, I do want to move to more of a pass-catching tight end role, and I think Grassu could be that guy with 82 catching, and then he's got 82 catching traffic, that is 76 short route running. Don't know his speed, though, so that's got me a little bit concerned, and his blocking isn't good at all, and I do think Biquette helps Wade Mann get some of those second-level blocks, but that is kind of the role I want to get. But Grassu, he's got some reserves from him, but currently out in front. Then we got the last guy we'll take a look at is free safety Akeem Gage from Stranahan High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, trying to catch the Miami Hurricanes. He is another free safety center fielder with that 81 zone at 95 speed, 67 awareness, and 80 pursuit. So he can get after the football. But those are the top 17 guys that we're currently going after. Let me know in the comments section what recruit you think should be some of the guys that we should definitely target. But that's going to do it for the live comm episode, part of the episode. Now I'm going to go ahead and simulate the bye week and see what happens in week 7. So I'll see you guys in just a moment. Here's a look at the top stories after the week. The Heisman race. Gil Condon of Notre Dame leads. Remember, a Fighting Irish player won it last year. Washington and Oregon do battle this week in the Big Ten and battle of top 25 teams. Clemson loses to Syracuse, an upset at the hands of the Orange. And never not like seeing the Tigers go down. Arkansas also beats Tennessee. The Razorbacks proving they're a legit team this year. Here are your scores in Week 7. Memphis 2-0 now in the ACC at the victory over Rice. Kennesaw State 2-0 also in the Conference USA. We see on Saturday as well, Tulane knocks off Fresno State. Kansas now ranked with a victory over Arizona State. Western Kentucky stays undefeated up to number 10 now with a victory against SMU in pretty solid fashion. We saw Clemson go down. They're now the number 11th ranked team. Boise State loses the home matchup to Central Michigan. Auburn, the number 2 team in the land, and knock off the Aggies. And the Red River rivalry is Texas getting the victory this year. They move back up into the top 25. Ohio wins against Eastern Michigan. In the game of the week, Ole Miss drops at home to Miami, a big non-conference clash in Week 7. With the Hurricanes, they bounce back, getting back in the win column. Vanderbilt, who will play next week, they beat Kentucky on the road, a big win for the Commodores, who are 5-2, no pushover this year. UTEP wins by a point in the first Mountain West game of the season. Purdue drops one at home to Northwestern, who've played a lot of teams close this season. Coastal Carolina doubles up their rival in Liberty. Ohio State wins the Golden Turtle, knocking off Illinois by 10. Sam Houston State blows out FIU, the Panthers falling out this season. Michigan escapes Madison with a 1-point victory over the Badgers. Alabama wins a close one against Missouri. We see Oregon beat Rutgers. The Scarlet Knights go down. Big win for the Ducks. Changes the landscape in the Big Ten. UCF stays undefeated with a victory against Colorado. Georgia stays at number 1, dominating Mississippi State. Michigan State loses at home to Penn State. And then we see Jacksonville State lose at home to Louisiana Tech. Georgia Tech, a nice victory on the road against Louisville. Duke beats their rivals in North Carolina, so the Tar Heels finally go down. And it's at the hands of the Blue Devils on the gridiron. South Florida knocks off Navy, so the Midshipmen no longer in first in the AAC. Troy over Louisiana Monroe by 8. We see Marshall knock off Georgia Southern by 2 touchdowns. BYU back in the win column, this time beating Baylor on the road. Texas Tech, their 4th straight loss in the Big 12. I don't know why I thought they'd be good this season. They're proving me wrong. UCLA gets their first win of the season. They knock off the Golden Gophers. Iowa State with a 20-point victory over their rivals in Kansas State. LSU beats winless Florida, who are now 0-6. Florida State knocks off Virginia Tech in the ACC. UConn goes down to Arkansas State, who are now up to number 15. Them in Western Kentucky looking to be the group of 5 reps. Bowling Green over UMass. Northern Illinois gets crushed by Oregon State, 45-7. UNLV over New Mexico in the Mountain West. Charlotte beats the Blazers. UAB 0-3 now in the AAC. Seems like a new era for UAB, and it's not a good one. Arizona squeaks by Houston. We see Army win by a score of 9-3, typical military score. Indiana with a nice victory over Maryland. TCU over Louisiana, 42-31. North Texas stays ranked with a close victory against FAU. Arkansas State did knock off Tennessee, who are now 3-3. USC gets a big victory against Iowa, 28-20. Oklahoma State puts up 49 on Utah. Usually it's the other way around, but the Utes finally go down. Pittsburgh's disappointing season continues. They lose 24-21 to the Boston College Eagles. NC State up to number 7 now. They put up 52 on Cal. Temple over Tulsa. We see Notre Dame knocks off Stanford in the rivalry matchup. And then finally, Southern Miss blows out Appalachian State. Here are your players of the week. Malik Love had 4 sacks in the loss to Kennesaw State, and Zay Smith with 4 total receiving touchdowns. While your SEC players are Frederick Hawkins of LSU and Javier Huber of Arkansas. Here's your updated rankings. The big one, obviously, Clemson going from 4-11 with their loss. But like I was talking about, the group of 5 race seems to be a very exciting one. Oregon State, Western Kentucky, and Arkansas State all in the top 15, and then North Texas right behind them. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as the season goes along. Here are the big games going into this week. Washington, Oregon, we talked about. Syracuse looks to build upon their victory over Clemson. We'll see if they can get it done on the road again next week against Duke. Ole Miss looks to bounce back after their loss to Miami against the undefeated Arkansas Razorbacks in a big SEC clash. In the Big Ten, USC hosts number 4 Penn State. This week, fresh off our bye, we're going to travel to Nashville to face the Vanderbilt Commodores, who are 5-2 and 2-1 in the SEC. So Vanderbilt, usually the doormat of the conference, is proving this year that they are a formidable opponent. And the way the Gamecocks have been playing recently, this is definitely a game you cannot overlook. They have St. Hilaire at quarterback, who's been one of the best in the conference. And if our defense plays like they did against Alabama, we may be in a lot of trouble. So hopefully we nail some things down during the bye week, and we are good to go for next week's matchup. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you drop that like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.